So in second part of my presentation today, I am dealing with variety of quality standards available in international standard market. The first that comes into picture, if you go through this table, just try and understand this. This is a very good and brief table, and it talks a lot about quality standards. And I thanks to our friend Ziri from American Translators Association, who has created this long back in 2006, which is still relevant in 2017. So if you notice, we have DIN 2345, which is started in 1998. Then we have Austrian standards ORM D1201, which applied in 2000. Then we have Chinese standard that came into picture in 2004. Then ASTM standard that came into picture in 2006. This is F2575. And then there is another standard that was very popular and it created a good buzz in European market, and that is EN15038 2006. The much more improved standard that came into picture, that was Canadian standards in 2008, and most recently in 2015 there is another standard that has come, which I will talk in my next slide, that is ISO. So now if you go through this left part of the table, where these standards apply and what they have: translation, interpretation, individuals, companies, basis of certification, voluntary compliance, mandatory compliance, and audit required. So Jerry has told us how to understand these standards. So DIN, if you just try and understand, for translation, yes; Austrian, yes; Chinese, yes; ASTM, yes; ENU 15038, yes; Canadian standard, yes; ISO 9001 was not for translation, but in 2015 ISO has been applied for translation. Interpretation, none of them are applicable for interpretation. Individuals, DIN, yes; Austrian, yes; Chinese, no; ASTM, yes; European Union, yes; Canadian standard, yes; companies applies to all. So Chinese standard does not apply to individuals, it applies to companies only. Now the basis of certification, DIN, no, there is no basis, it was just a guideline. Austrian standards, no, it was just a guideline. Chinese standard, no, it was just a guideline. ASTM, no, it was just a guideline. But for European Union, you need to be certified. For Canadian standards, you need to be certified. And all of them are there for voluntary compliance. You can, of course, if you are not having certification, you can always say that I am aware of all these standards and I comply with so and so standards. Means I religiously follow those standards while doing translation or maintaining my processes, but I am not a certified one. If you are a certified, you use the logo. If you are not a certified, just say compliance, adhere to so and so. Even if you do that, it works. So the idea is, similarly, mandatory compliance, none of them are mandatory. Means there is nothing legal that you, being a translator, you must follow it. No need. It is at your will. Means they are not law. Similarly, audit required, none of them except European Union and Canadian standards, and of course the new ISO. So this is in brief, all these basic standards of translation, and most of them focus on two aspects, not on the text, rather they focus more on They focus more on what? Any idea? They focus more on qualification of the translator, number one, qualification of the proofreader or editor, number two, and terminology management, etc. And of course, there are non-linguistic aspects that comes into picture. So before I move into the next slide, just for understanding, US standards, which is very good standard, apart from European Union, you can consider this as a guideline. There are three phases. One is the specification phase, second one is production phase, and third one is post production phase or project phase. Okay, so in a specification phase, there is a information or terminology management comes into picture. There is a manager, and there is a communication between client and the translator or translation agency. Client provides the specification of the project, and once the understanding between both has been done, a contract is made, and once the contract is made, the production phase comes into picture. So even in production phase, you have to see, number one, terminology, whether client has specified it or given it to you, or you are going to prepare it, number one. Number two, who is the project manager, who is the translator? Translator is a specialist in a particular domain or not. So once all these things has been defined by the project manager, the project is awarded to the translator. Once the translation is done, it is reviewed by a reviser. When I say reviewed, means a translation translated by one person must be reviewed by a second person. Once the review has been done, it goes for the client. Client receives it, goes through it. If there is any feedback, client will give it feedback. The improvement will take place. If there is no feedback, no problem. You move ahead with another project. So this is, in crux, the US model of project management and translation management. However, a more robust model that was developed by LISA standards. Although LISA is no more into existence now, but LISA was developed by a good number of IT companies like Adobe, Cisco, CLS Communication, Microsoft, Oracle, Nokia, Lionbridge. All these people were involved in formation of LISA standards, and they had developed a parameter in such a way and in such a detail that they had even defined penalty for all the linguistic errors, penalty for all the non-linguistic errors. And by using those penalty, if you have reached a 90% level of accuracy, your translation is accepted. If you are not following those standards and you have reached below 90, your translation is referred back to you for further refreshment of the text and review of the text and improvement, and then you do that revision and do the betterment and bring it back. So LISA practice was best practice, but now unfortunately the LISA has been dissolved and some other standards have come into picture. As I had told you, apart from the latest one was Canadian standard, which came into picture in 2008, but industry people have been working hard in order to bring in the other standards, and that standard is ISO 17100 2015. The basic criteria of this is translation plus revision is a must by second person. and a certificate of competence is required by appropriate government body. Means a translator must be having a certificate of competence, and same applies to proofreader or a reviser. And this particular standard also gives emphasis on cooperation between clients and translators. Means clients can't simply send the text to the translator and expect miracle to happen. Client must give input in terms of terminology management, or they must reply back if translators are facing any problems or doubts they must come back to the client must clarify. And once it's like a teamwork, it's not like only translator. However, apart from all these standards which has focused more on processes, the DIN standards had focused more on text, and that was original text. You need to understand what kind of text you have. Based on the nature of the text, you define the translator, and when the translator has been defined, they enter into a contract, define basic terms, which format you are reading, getting the translation, your DTP is required or not, terminology is required separately or not. Similarly, direct text, when you are doing translation, then there are specific symbols, there are segments, there are non-linguistic aspects, there are linguistic aspects, and then proofreading. So this was the basic model on DIN standards, which was developed in 1998, which is still relevant. That is the reason why I have given a special mention to it. So with this, people have started thinking where that there are so many standards coming into picture, which one to choose, which one not to choose, whether this translation standard is possible at all. But you don't have to get worried about this. Worry was there 10 years back, but now that worry has come to an end when ISO has been developed. When I say ISO, it is no more only American, Japanese, Korean or Chinese or European Union. ISO means international. So although acceptability of that ISO standard has not come into picture in large number, however, acceptability has increased, and it is increasing slowly. When we say it is impossible mission, there are lots of concerns that has come into picture. And what are those concerns? How to harmonize the definition. There is no conceptual agreement about the standard. Somebody is talking about text, somebody is talking about non-linguistic aspects, somebody is talking about error, somebody is talking about penalty. There are different matrices of measurement. I mean, when there are different methods, when there are different ethics, there are different standards, there are different angles of seeing quality standards, it almost becomes impossible to think about a standardized process. As I told you, ISO has already worked, so now it is already mission possible. So with this, I would like to conclude. When we talk about quality standards in translation, certainly if a country has one language or a two language or three languages, it becomes easy for them to make standards for their own country. But for a country like India, when we have 1600 dialects classified into 234 languages, it appears as if we are ourselves ISO standards. India needs separate standards for languages. Unfortunately, awareness about taking services for translation through standard perspective has not developed much in India because of B being multilingual, bilingual, and B being a Jogaru people. We try to play with rules, regulations. We don't want more burdens in terms of standards, etc. and neither there is any initiative coming except for certain initiatives by IT industry people. We still lack, this standard thing. However, now ISO coming into picture, we will not be able to keep ourselves aloof. We will be forced through market demand to start using these standards and apply them in our processes. I have actively made use of these people with whom I have interacted personally. Christian from Infoterm, Austria, and then Ian 15038, then ASTM 2575. Then I have requested Chinese Translators Association of China, TSE, to send me their standards. Luckily, they have sent one copy to me. Then DEAN, then SAE, and then Translation Service Standards of Canada. Luckily, I have all these standards which I carry with me. If you need anything of any information about all these things, you can separately seek these information. I can always share with you if I have something with me. But these information are very helpful, and if you Google, perhaps you will get more information about all this. So with this, I would like to give my special thanks to you for your listening and participation in this particular lecture on quality standards in translation. A more detailed study is needed. I have just given a brief introduction on what is translation and what is quality translation and what is quality standards, and how and where we as an Indian can make use of these standards. Although Indian clients may not ask about all this, but people coming from abroad who are trying to enter into Indian market, they may ask you if you follow any of these. If you have a good answer, they will be happy, and it will be perhaps helpful in developing more business for you. Thank you. Any questions, any doubt, please welcome.